feeling? And our few good gentlemen.
Yeah, give him a round of applause. Oops.
And a few good men, I see you. How y'all feeling this morning?
Wonderful.
How many of you all had a late night?
Yes.
Look, the rest of y'all need some super friends. Because if you had super friends, you were real grown last night. I mean grown. Where are my super friends that had me out way too late last night? You see, look around, y'all. Look around. Don't hang with them. Because I said, I got to work in the morning, y'all. They was like, you'll be fine. You could do this in your sleep. I said, no, I need sleep. And they didn't allow it. So today we're coming to talk about super friends. How many of you all have a group of women that are your super friends? Right? Because as black women, every day we get up and we have to put on a mask like we know what's going on. How many of you all ever showed up and they ask you a question, you like, in your head, you like, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. And by the time they finish, you had a full laid out strategy.
Yes.
But sometimes we need to go someplace where we can just say, I don't know. I have 3 degrees and I don't know. I've been married to that man for so many years, I don't know. You gonna make it tomorrow? I don't know. And it needs to be a safe place to do that. So today I have a group of my super friends that are going to come to the stage and talk to us about how we build friendships. Because the reality is, you cannot do this by yourself. And many of you have been trying, and I can tell you you're failing. I can see it. You ain't been drinking water and minding your business. It's all in your skin. Right? But we need our super friends. And so today I'm going to bring up a group of amazing women, y'all. These women are so amazing. I'm bringing up first Stephanie Chung. She is a keynote speaker, board member, and author. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And a former chief growth officer at Wheels Up. Y'all, private jet company. We're going to talk about it. Come on up, Stephanie. And then we have Jayme Smoot, who is the VP of Corporate Sustainability and External Affairs Operations at Nationwide. Y'all saw, I said, y'all know y'all saw them up front taking pictures. She was salty with y'all. She was like, it's my panel. How y'all got me not in the picture? Cynthia Elliott, who is the Senior Director, Extended Workforce Operations and Technology at Google. So welcome the Super Friends panel. Give us our applause. Have a seat, ladies. So I want to jump into this. Let's start right from the beginning. My first question is, everyone knows in their friend group which friend you are, right? It's like, which friend are you? You know, you got the calm friend, a hyper friend. So I did not introduce myself. I am Dethra Giles. I am the CEO of a company called Executive Prep out of Atlanta, Georgia. And I am the friend that if you want a shoulder to cry on and talk it out, don't call me. But if you are already dressed in all black and ready to ride out, I'm your friend. Yeah, I'm to come in the Oldsmobile in all black and let's go ahead and do this. That's my friend. So Stephanie, tell us, which friend are you?
So, well, welcome everybody. We're so excited to see you here. And I am the friend that is rowdy. I'm the cheerleader friend, like, you can do this, you got it, let's go. But I'm also the friend that if I need to give it to you straight, like, girl, your eyelashes look like they're throwing up gang signs, right? I'm gonna tell you that too, right? So that's the kind of friend I am. I'm gonna be fun, but I'm gonna be straight.
Jayme, tell us, which friend are you?
I am the calm friend. I will keep you out of jail. I will keep you tired. I will bring that level of calm to those crazy situations.
And she's the lawyer. We're like, you can't come with us, girl. We got to call you. Somebody got to get us out. All right, Cynthia, which friend are you?
So I'm the cry on your shoulder friend. I will cry with you. I will laugh with you. I will cry again, but I'm the one that, you know, you can pull the heartstrings and make sure that you have a person that you can talk to.
Nice. I love it. So Cynthia, let's start with you. I asked everyone, what is the quote that they live by? And Cynthia's quote was, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted with a game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. Everyone knows that's from Jordan. So we think about our quotes, we think about our careers and all that stuff, but how do you apply that quote to your friendships, Cynthia?
So just like Michael Jordan, whom I consider the greatest athlete of all time, for those of you who are Chicago friends, I watched Jordan for many years, 6 championships, and just a detour, just a little bit about that quote. I had the opportunity to meet Michael when I was in Sarasota, Florida. I was starstruck. And so this quote means so much to me because just like in sports, where a lot of people do, take this quote and apply it to their professional life, when you're building friendships, you have to have that same level of commitment and rigor. And so I apply it to friendships. And when I think about friendships, these are deep, enriching relationships that I would like to build. And you're gonna have your ups and downs with friendships, right? But just like a marriage, just like a coach or a mentor, you have to invest. So when I think about Michael Jordan's quote and what it means, it's like you have to keep shooting your best shot, even if it means giving up at points, but keep trying and keep shooting.
I love it. Stephanie, you made history as the first African, no, sorry. I mixed it up.
Don't mess up my history.
No, not
Make an event.
You made history as the first African American to serve as president of a major private aviation company in the U.S. And that's private aviation company, like everybody wants to fly on a private jet. And to have that title, that's amazing. Your quote was, "Tough times don't last, but tough people do." Tell me how you apply that to your friendships.
Yeah, well, I'll probably do the same thing as Cynthia did, just to give you a little context, right? So private aviation, it's an aspirational industry. People either want to fly privately or at least have enough money to fly privately. And so, but the aviation industry, it has loved me, I've loved it back. But I always say that our aviation industry we suffer from PMS. We are pale, male, and stale, right? so that whole saying, tough times don't last, tough people do, was things I had to tell myself many a days, right? As I'm looking in the mirror, ready to think, girl, tough times don't last, tough people do, tough times don't last. So that's literally why I'm so passionate about that quote. But in regards to how it kind of transforms into my friendships, the truth of the matter is, and I know we're gonna talk a lot about this, the higher level, higher devil. And so you need friends along the way that are gonna be like-minded with you each step that you go. And so when you're going through those tough times, you need the friends who are at your same level, who know what you're going through, and who can encourage you and support you or challenge your thought process, right? Yeah. And so really that's why that quote means so much to me. It's, on the personal level, you're just gonna need those friends that can help you, because as you get higher and higher in your career, different level, different devil.
Now, did you see how many women wrote down PMS? We're like, when they walk in the office, what's wrong with you? I am suffering from PMS. That is my problem today. I love it. Jayme, you previously served as the president of the Ohio Women's Bar Association and was appointed by 2 governors to serve on the Ohio Elections Commission. That is crazy. I love it.
Thank you.
I know, right? Your quote is, and one of my favorite quotes as well, when someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time.
Right, the first time.
Tell me why that applies to your friendships.
It applies to everything. Friendships, work, everything. When people show you who they are, you need to believe them. And I have strong friends who have been there for me through thick and thin. I've had people who've disappointed me, and I pay attention to that. It's very critical as we think about friendships, relationships, everything, to pay attention to how people treat you, what they say, and to get that lesson the first time so you don't repeat situations that aren't the greatest.
Listen, say that louder for the people in the back. Get that message the first time. So
Yes,
you don't
first
repeat
time.
those. How many of us have been in a cycle of repeating bad friendships? Listen, the rest of y'all are lying. I saw 2 people raise their hand. I'm trying to tell you. So I want to start with you on this one, Stephanie. Sure. Is It's important because you talked about at the higher level, it's more and more difficult. So at this level, how do you cultivate friendships?
Yeah, so it's interesting because for me, like the friends that I've got, each level you're gonna grab that new set of friends that can consider, think about what you're going through. And you should also be planning for your next level. So how do you start working that higher level friendship as well? But for me, my friend crowd is, one, we're all busy. And so you have to know the types of friends that you need as well. If right now my daughter's older, I'm an empty nester, but that may be very different than someone who has younger kids and things of that nature. So when you think of your friend crowd, you have to consider even those little nuances, because if you have a friend crowd that's like, I'm single, I'm married, if they're single and they go to brunch every Sunday and they consider that to be an important part of their friendship, I can't go to brunch every Sunday. I got stuff to do, right? And so what I would tell you is, for my friend group, we are all busy. We're all making things happen on a big global level. And so when we get together, our strategy is we're intentional and we're direct, and we don't spend a whole lot of time. I don't have any friends that are needy or whiny or got a whole lot of problems. I just don't, right?
We call those children.
Yeah. Or exes. No,
Yeah. What did she say? It just got real in the room. Or exes.
But those are the things that you have to consider, because though we're talking about friendship and it's a positive word and it should be a positive experience, but you just have to guard your time, guard your heart, because you're trying to get things done. And so anyone that's not running at the same pace you are, get rid of them. That whole first time, like one and done, you're 100% right? So anyways, that's how I look at it from a friendship perspective, is my particular tribe, we are all very like, let's get together, let's be intentional, but let's be direct with our conversation, and you don't have to tiptoe around things, because we're all doing it in love and we're full of trust at the end of the day.
That trust is so powerful. Now, Jayme, I want you to chime in on the back end of this. What are some key strategies for maintaining friendships? Mainly because Stephanie just hit on it. We're all so busy. And so how do you water these friendships at this level? Because we know they're so critical. How do we do that?
Absolutely. And to your point, I'm in the thick of it as a mom. I have an 8th grader, a 10th grader. In fact, this morning I was up at the crack of dawn doing parent-teacher conferences. So in the thick of it, and a lot of my friends are similarly situated. And so we make sure, if nothing else, we text. If something's going on, I might send a scripture. I'm a woman of faith. A quick emoji. Sometimes it's an inappropriate rap song. Whatever.
Oh, we just got ratchet.
Whatever is needed. But we show up for each other. If something is really going on, my friends know I will drop anything to be with them, unless it's something for my children. Otherwise, I will drop anything to be with them. I've been supported through health issues. I've supported friends through loss of parents, kids being sick. And it's just critical to know it's that trust, the consistency, flexibility, understanding if something comes up at work and I can't meet tonight, I will get with you the next time, and understanding that we need to be flexible. So it's hard when you're busy, but I'm telling you, my friendships lift me up. I would not be in this role right now, sitting on this stage, without so many of my friends, both outside of Nationwide and many who are sitting in this room.
Aww. Even I felt that one nationwide, right?
Yeah, oh my God.
Nationwide is on your side.
Yes, Nationwide is on her side. And so it's important because you all hit some very key things: trust, understanding, knowing each other, showing up. And so these are things that we have to look for before we put someone in our quote unquote friend group. And so Cynthia, talk about what qualities you look for in friends, because again, we're at a level where we have to be very keen and critical about who we allow that close to us, because we tell you tell your real super friends, like you better not tell nobody but God.
That's right.
Yeah. So what do you look for, and what are those qualities you look for when you're looking for people that you let into your circle?
Yeah, so my friendships stem from way back in the day, right? They start from when I was in college. They morphed into a professional environment. And my background is not traditional of most people. I was a young mom. My family grew up in the South during segregation. And so if you look at everything that was stacked against me, there is no reason I should be on this stage.
Absolutely, okay.
Love that.
But the reason I'm here is because of those friendships. I remember back in 2012, I thought I hit the lottery when I got a job at Google. I had already spent 7 years at Amazon, and I came to Google in 2012, and I was very ambitious and driven. And I was in the New York office at the time. There were probably like 2,000 people there. Today it's like 15, 20,000 people. But I was limited by my advancement. And I was encouraged to move to Silicon Valley, where I initially was gonna go and stay like a year or two. I ended up staying there for 8 years. But I built very strong relationships. And it was this woman that took me under her wing who became my skip level manager and my mentor. And she saw something in me that I did not see. And she encouraged me to take on different roles. I started as an individual contributor. I worked my way up to a senior manager, a director, a senior director, and it was through that friendship. And I'm getting emotional because the other day I was going through a very difficult time, and she called me. And she said, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, how does she know, right? That's a super friend.
Yeah.
This is the type of qualities that I look for in a person, someone that will do anything, right? Will call, will know what you're going through. And these are the qualities that I also instill in myself. And I try to provide for people what I wish I would have had early on in my life. So it's emotional, but it's something that I truly value, which is friendship.
Love it. Now, how many of you all have that super friend that they can see what you don't want them to see, right? Mine is sitting right here, Sherry Riley, and I'm not the emotional person. I told you, I'm the ride out person.
Yeah. You can definitely tell the kind of friend I am, right? Everybody knows you can see the tears coming, right?
And I'm going through something, and I call her, I say, I got 10 minutes to talk about this, and she listens to me. She's like, okay. I said, my 10 minutes is up. She said, you only had 10 minutes to talk. You don't have 10 minutes to process. I was like, I hate you. Right? And so it's so powerful. Now, I need everyone to look around. How many of you have something Black-owned on or in your hand or on your person? Raise your hand if you do. Good, good, good. Now, I want you all to have something else that's Black-owned. So after this, our girl Stephanie is going to be next door signing her book called Allied Leadership, How to Lead People Who Are Not Like You. And so you need one more Black-owned thing on your person. And so I'm going to need to see all y'all. When this is over, just make a beeline over the next store to get your book signed. And so I joke, but Stephanie, that's so powerful. How do you take that into your friendships? Because our friends don't always have to look like us.
Yes,
right?
yes. Say that again for the
Yes.
people in the back.
It's one of my best girlfriends, my good Judy's. Listen, she threw my first baby shower. She said, Dethra, we're going to have a drop-in shower. And I said, darn, Black people don't know what that is. Right. So talk about the power of the friendships of people that don't look like you.
Well, first of all, you're talking to a Black woman with a Chinese last name, okay? So let's just So it's so important. Thank you for the question, by the way, and thank you for the book shout-out. I really appreciate that. When you think about lessons learned, you know, my daughter and I were talking about this morning, you can actually learn more from people who don't have a shared similar experience from you. And so what I would encourage all of you to do is expand your thought process of what you believe your friendships need to look like. And I'll tell you a really quick story. So I remember many years ago, I live in Texas. Okay, so Texas, it's kind of iffy depending on where you live, right? So I remember being at a particular place, and I needed to introduce this gentleman who was going to be speaking. So this is what the gentleman looked like. Well, let me just say it this way. He looked like he just came from burning down the Capitol. I say that because I know that you all would picture, right? Exactly, right? The long beard, the stomach, the gun on the side. And so I've got to introduce this gentleman, which means I need to now get to know him a little bit so I can at least have enough information to introduce him because of the setting that we were in. And my instinct was me and this guy got nothing in common. But as I started to talk to him more, and you talked about my book, Ally Leadership, Ally stands for Ask, Listen, Learn. You take action. The more I started to talk to him, the more I found out that he had just finished marching with Black Lives Matter. That he used to be in the NFL, and so he, as a former Navy SEAL, felt like he fought for Colin to be able to take a knee if he wanted to. This was not what I expected when I was looking at him. And he's one of my closest friends. And when we walk into a coffee shop together in Texas, the whole coffee shop will usually stop, and you can feel the tension because they don't know why are these two together? And it kind of makes us sad, truth be told, right? So what I would just share with you all is, yes, we want to have friends that look like all of us, right? Because some of that times that's just easier. But I also challenge you, we live in a really big world. And as leaders, you're going to lead people who are not like you. You should have friends that are not like you. My tribe of women, most of us are Black C-suite women or on boards, but we have one white girl, Issa, and who's probably Blacker than most of us, okay? Her parents marched with Martin Luther King, like she's that white girl, you know? And so Lisa, we can go do stuff, and if things aren't working in our favor, she'll be like, let me go use my white privilege, hold on.
Let me see the manager.
Hold on, right? So I just encourage you, don't limit yourself, right? Don't limit yourself. Think Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
That's a friendship nobody would ever see coming. So I just challenge everybody that, it's a big world out there, and you're all about what people, like human beings, can actually add value, and what value can you add as well, and they may or may not look like you, and that's okay.
And if I could add, can I add to that, please? I think that's just the importance of diversity overall. It's important in your friendships. It's important at work. You make the best decisions when you're surrounded by a diverse group of people. That's the reality, and so it's important in your personal life as much as it is in your work life.
That's right, exactly.
Absolutely. Because those different perspectives change our perspectives, right? Yes. All that input is now data that we can use to make better decisions across the board, so it changes everything. Now, this one is coming over to you, Jayme. So I remember once I had a very, very good friend. We grew up together and all the other stuff. When we got to a point in our friendship, she did something that was out of character and really out of line. So I pretty much said, you know what, this friendship is over. And she asked the question, were we ever really friends? And I said, absolutely. What we had was real, it's just over, right? And so let's talk about how do we make that transition, because there are times in your life where you realize what we had was real. It's just over.
What's that saying? Jesus may not be done with you, but I am.
Yes. He's not finished with you yet, but I am. So talk about that. How do we know when it's time to make that transition in friendship?
Absolutely. There are a couple things I'll start with. First, I firmly believe that friendships, relationships can be in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. When it's clear that some of those that the category is a season and this season is over, I think you just recognize it with gratitude and then have open communication and just say, listen, I'm setting my boundaries, and the friendship is over at this point. The other thing that always comes to mind is actually a Drake song. I might get the lyrics a little bit wrong, but
that's what we do.
That's what we do. That's what we do. I've been losing friends, but finding peace. And that line resonates with me so much, because sometimes if a relationship is clearly toxic, if you're the one giving and not receiving all the time, I mean, sometimes relationships ebb and flow, and some people need more at a certain time, but if it's clear you're the one giving, you're always the one reaching out, you're always doing, it might be time to let that friendship go. Or every time you see a phone call from that person, your stomach hurts. Oh no, what are they about to say? What's going on? It might be time to ease up on that relationship. And I think you just have to be open and honest. I've had to do it before, and then I've also recognized when I have people in the wrong friendship category. So I think they're close, trusted, but actually it's more of an acquaintance. And that's fine too, but you have to know the level and understand, because again, the friendships are so critically important to who you are, who you'll be, where you'll go, your strength. You have to make sure that you can absolutely trust the people who are in your corner, and it's okay to pull back.
And can I just add to that, because I love it. And when you think of it, ladies, we're all multifaceted. And so it's okay to have, you know, you're a mother, right? And your kids are smaller. So you may have friends that are there. Like I'm a speaker. I have friends that are speakers. I write a book. I have friends that are authors. Like, you know, I'm on boards. So you have different pockets of friends who can actually help you and add value based on the situation and the scenario that you're working with. So I agree with you. You know, you have your one core, but it's okay to also have groups of friends that are there for seasons and reasons, or specialties, right, that you can kind of rely on and you can add value back as well.
I absolutely have my go-to friends based on a situation.
Yes.
So I recently threw a surprise birthday party for my mother, her 70th birthday. She didn't want to do anything. I decided the week before that was not sitting well with me, so I called a group of friends to come and celebrate with her. And I knew which one of my friends to call that would help me decorate the room versus the one that I knew would show up late. So I told her a super late time so she wouldn't ruin the surprise for my mom, but she took pictures. It's like, you have to know your friends. And that friend is actually a doctor, so when I have medical issues, she's the first person I call. So you're right, it's knowing your friends, which situation to call them.
I want to lean into that a little bit, knowing your friends and knowing who's a friend, and not like I don't like you, but knowing the difference between, like, as you said, a friend and an acquaintance, because we're not talking about just people we casually go out and have lunch with. We're talking about, listen, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I am on the edge looking over. Who do I call, right? And so I want us to lean into that question. How do you know the difference between someone that's a friend and an acquaintance? And I'll start with you, Jayme.
Absolutely. For me, I feel it. I know who I can trust, and some of it too is based on how they behave. If it's clear that they're going to tell my business, and you know, if they're telling me too much information about others, I know, okay, if you're telling me all of this, you're probably telling my business to someone as well. So, you know, with time, you can develop that level of trust. And when I tell you I have some go-to people, again, some who are in this room when there is an issue, and I know I can count on them to give me great advice, if I need to cry, I can cry without judgment, but then also to strategize, like to get me out of that space so we can think about what are the next steps. But you have to trust your gut with friendships. If something doesn't feel right, if for some reason you aren't trusting something, trust it and move on.
I love it. And I love that holding secrets, because I tell my friends, my secrets die with you, not with me. So if I die before you do, don't go around telling my business. You take it to your grave, not to mine. Cynthia.
That's good.
So Cynthia, I want to ask you that same question. How do you know the difference between a friend and an acquaintance?
Yeah. For me, I think a friendship is something sacred. I literally have a handful of what I call friends. And these are people that I will do anything for, and they'll do anything for me. So I rather invest in a handful of good relationships and know that the person I'm talking to, I truly trust. I'm not one to sort of hold back on my feelings about things. People will say I'm very direct and open when you get to know me. I think of an acquaintance as someone that, you know, I'm still very cordial, but this is not a person that I would trust with, you know, my dearest secrets or anything like that. I think as you move up, right, whether it's personally or professionally in your career and in life, you have to be very careful about the type of friends that you select. These people not only represent you as a person, but these are people that you want to respect and love in the long term. So for me, it's all about the quality of those relationships and being very selective.
I want to stay with you for a minute on this one, Cynthia, because you said something so powerful. I will give them everything. How do we make sure in these friendships that it's reciprocal?
Yeah, so what I try to do is I try to provide to others what I haven't had, right? I talked earlier about my background and how I came from these humble beginnings, and I started programs, actually, that I mirrored off of my own experiences. And everything I wish I would have had. Someone to teach me how to write about my performance, someone to teach me how to stand up for myself and be confident, someone to talk to me about how to show up in a room. And so these are the same types of attributes that I try to instill when I'm, in a friendship. I try to be there for the person. I'm open and available. If someone calls me, I drop everything. You have my undivided attention. There is nothing I will not do for you. The type of people that I select, and this is why I said it's important to have a small set of people, because you know your friends, right? You know these are the same people that's going to reciprocate the same type of feelings that you have. And so for me, it's a two-way street. But I try to, offer what I would want to see in myself to others.
I love that. I want to bring it back over to you, Stephanie. When you talk about these high-powered women and there's always things going on, how do you ensure that those relationships are reciprocal?
The way that I decide whether or not someone's my friend is actually really simple, is would I invite them or have I invited them to my home? It's just that simple, right? And so if I've never invited you to my house, you're probably not really my friend. You're an associate, right? And I know you and you know me and that type of thing, but we're not friends. And so I'll give you an example. There was a few summers ago, I had a situation where my father-in-law was sick and dying. My father had just died. Our company was going IPO, and if you guys know, it's like when you try to take a company public. I got in a car accident. Like, all this happened within like a month, and I was drowning. And I remember calling my friends and literally saying, I'm ready to tap out. I cannot take anymore, guys. I just need to go away for a little bit. And they're like, we got you. Next thing I know, group text goes out. All right, everybody, Steph needs us. We've rented a home in Napa. This is the date. We need you to come. You can cry. You can get sloppy drunk. You can do whatever you want to do, right? We're here for you. And the Calvary, these are all busy women. Everybody flew down there, and we had this, big old home, and literally they were just there for me to do and be, just to be.
Yeah.
That's friendship, right?
Yes.
And those women have been, and I would definitely have over and over and over again in my home. So I think there are times that we have to not overcomplicate it. I'm an incredibly simplistic person. If you would have them in your house, if you would, have your kids around them and leave there, or have your husband around them, you know what I mean? Like any of that stuff, they're your friends. If you
You heard the mumble?
Yeah, you're all I noticed that too. I was like,
That leg cross got a lot tighter. They were like, oh no, girl. Listen, all everybody heard was, my friends ain't about nothing. Written houses, Napa. They stopped listening after Napa.
Going to Napa, huh?
They are texting their friends like, you ain't never took me to Napa. I love it.
If I could add one thing to
Yes.
it, it's funny that you said invite to your home, because I had a recent situation where a friend of mine did something that went against my values. And in the moment, I just said, you know what, this is no longer a safe space. And I just told her that directly, but she'll still be an acquaintance, not a close friend. But the first thing I thought, I said, she will never be back to my house. She will never.
don't even look at my house, right?
Unless you live in Atlanta. I'm like, friends, I would have you over.
Yeah.
But I live too far. So here's a question. Because our friends have such an impact on us, I mean, they impact you in ways that others cannot because they have access that others don't. All of you, how have your friends in a tangible way impacted your life?
I'm happy to start, and this is actually a work situation. I've been very blessed to be at Nationwide for almost 10 years. And when I first started there in a legal role, I was excited about the role. I was really learning the industry, but I knew that I had other skills and talents. And so one of the great things about Nationwide's culture is that we are such a relationship-based company. So I felt very comfortable talking to people within Nationwide about what my other interests are, what my other skill sets are. So I'd been in the role for a little over a year, and a leadership role became available. And someone that I'd talked to about my skills, about my talents before the role was even posted, said, I think this might be a good match for you. You should consider it. And honestly, had she not said that, I don't know that I would have. And I did. I talked to my personal board of directors, talked to my friends, and said, does this make sense for me now? Do you think this is the right fit? Everybody said, yes, go for it. And ultimately, I did get the role, which propelled me to additional roles, including the one that I'm sitting in now, which is like a dream job for me. And so had that person not thought enough about me and known my skill set to make that call, I don't know if I would be here today. So it's powerful, the friendships and what people can do to support you. And so I always think about that and think about how can I similarly pour into others? How can I set people up for their next situation? How can I lean in and pay attention and make sure I'm making the right connections for other people? And that's the true value of friendships.
Yeah.
She just said something that I really want to touch on, which is paying it forward, right? And so I'll give you an example to kind of answer your question as well. When I first became the president of this particular company that I was working for, that made history, right? So I was the first Black person, U.S. history, to run a private jet company. And so there was a lot of press on it. And I remember getting via LinkedIn, a note from two people I didn't know. Michelle G, who was actually one of the heads of Essence, or executive with Essence, and Bozoma St. John. And they reached out to me and they said, sis, congratulations. You're changing the face of corporate America. Let us know how we can help. And so we all flew down to Chicago. None of us live in Chicago. We all flew to Chicago and we had lunch. And they were only there just to pay it forward. And now, of course, we still have that friendship and, we text about different things. But that's a simple way to pay things forward when you see something. And so, so I like your example because when you have the relationship, or for all of us that we may be reading the press or, again, sometimes you see the press about your friends and you're like, girl, you good? Like, yeah, eat up a little bit out there, right?
You got your bad side on that picture.
Yeah. I'm praying for you, right? But so those are the ways that we can pay it forward, and no one has to know. But you can do it under the radar because usually, that's the part that's the most important anyways.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think what resonated with me, what you said, Jayme, is what people saw in you, right? To encourage you to seek other roles. And I experienced the same thing in my career, right? I think it's a friendship, but it's also a sponsorship. And to have someone that knows you so well, especially in a personal interprofessional setting, is like invaluable. And the way that shows up is really critical because the last 3 jobs that I've had at Google, I've been there, this is my 13th year, I have not interviewed for. And it wasn't because I was pre-selected, it was because the people in the room not only were my sponsors, they were my friends. And they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And they saw the qualities that I could bring to the table. And they saw the perseverance and the work ethic and the skills and all of that. And so each time I've been tapped, as they state, right? I've been said, hey, Cynthia, can you take on this role? Because we believe you are the most qualified person for this position. And so these friendships span more than just, hello, how you doing? These are people that you should see as people who are advocates for you, who are mentors for you, who are sponsors, and who will do anything for you to make sure that you're taken care of.
I want to lean into that a little bit. So for Jayme and Stephanie, can you talk about how your friendships have impacted your career?
This happened to me recently, actually. I was up for a board role, and I remember, I think she's sending you a note here. Code, okay.
Go, Q&A, got it.
But, and so I, reached out to my girlfriends, and I'm like, okay, guys, I'm this, and this, and, kind of looking for some guidance there. And that was an example of pretty much most of them are on boards anyway. And they're like, all right, here's how you want to handle this. Here's how you want to ask for this. Here's how you want to say this. And so that's an example of utilizing their expertise and the friendship. And I can be vulnerable and go, you know what, okay, I see it this way, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to position it, blah, 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 blah. And then speak, because they know me so well, this is your superpower, this is where you're going to be exposed, so do it this way, that kind of thing. So,
Love it. Jayme.
Absolutely. I would say about 5 years ago, I was thinking about doing something in the public sector because I was feeling drawn to do something very much community-based. And so I had some critical conversations with nationwiders, and they said, okay, really think about that. And I know, like, what is pulling you to want to do something different? And then they just said, don't limit what you could do within the walls of Nationwide. And when I'm sitting here at this stage doing the work that I'm very privileged to do now in corporate sustainability and being able to lead associate giving and volunteerism, it's almost full circle. The fact that I can do that kind of work at a company that I very much love is a reward. And had people not said, okay, what are you really doing right now? Like, really think about this, I wouldn't be here. And so it has made a tremendous difference in my career.
Love it. So everyone, we're going to open it up for questions. But before we do that, I want to talk about what a question is. Welcome to Language Arts 101. Questions in a question mark. And just because you take your voice up an octave at the end does not make it a question mark. Your name, where you're from, and your question, which ends in a what?
Question mark.
All right, good job. There are 2 microphones in the center of the aisles. Please go to the microphones, and you're welcome to ask your question. You made it first, go ahead. Oh, like, is this thing on? There you go. Oh, no. All right, you try. Let's see if yours is on. Go for it. Yes, go for it.
Good morning. My name is Joanne Wangi, and my question to you is, have you ever been the toxic friend, and how did you handle it?
Ooh, that's a good one. Listen.
She has no. That's for you.
All right, only one of you. Which one wants to answer that question? And half.
Right?
Listen, we all have our moments. One of the things I say is every village has its idiot. And if you don't know who it is in your village, it's probably you. I didn't say it, you laughed. But every single one of us gets a chance to sit in that seat at any given moment, and that's why it's so important how you treat that person. And we all, depending on where you may be in life, you may not be in a space to be a good friend at that time. And that's why it's so important to know, how do we know when to end something? Because like you said, there was a time when you were going through so many things at once, you weren't able to pick up the phone. It's like, what? Why aren't you answering my call? Because someone died, someone's dying, and I don't even know if I'm gonna make it.
Right.
Right? And so in that moment, we may not be the best friends. So I think we all can say yes to that question. There were times when we weren't able to be our best selves in that friendship.
Yeah. That was good.
All right, is your mic working now?
Yes, it's working.
Perfect, go for it.
Hello, my name is Barbara Thomas, and I'm from London. And my question is around the intersection of friendship and work. Can you speak a little bit around how you manage friends who work with you, have become part of your team, to get the best out of your friends, and how you manage when your friend isn't really performing in the way you'd hoped? How you manage that?
Ooh, that's a good one. Again, I'm like, tell us more.
That's a good one.
wants to take that one?
I will start by stating that for me, some of my closest friendships have actually started in the workplace, right? You have this sort of common foundation of work. You don't have to explain everything, right? You can just talk freely. But at the same time, you have to set boundaries. I have had people on my team who I've led and they have been friends. I do believe a true friendship, right? You can set those boundaries clearly. And if they are your friend, they will want you to do that, right? Yeah. So that's where you start to decide. And, you know, we talked earlier about qualities you look for in a friend. This is one of the qualities that you look for. A friend will not put you in a compromising position. A friend will want the very best for you. So it's a tricky one, but I do think there's more upside to it than the downside of it.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Over here.
Hi everyone, I'm Destiny, I'm from Atlanta. Just to know that I'm 23 and I work remote, I wanted some tips to gain friends, professional friends, and then how to maintain them.
Who wants to take that?
I'll take that. So usually before I started to oversee companies and whatnot, I came up through the sales rank, so I was always like head of sales and that type of thing. And so your teams are always remote. And it is an extra effort that you have to take, especially, there's a lot of remote working these days, right? So you will have to take that extra step, but it's not impossible. So when you think about friendship in general, at least how I think of it, it's, am I there? Can I be trusted? Do I honor my word? Is my yes, my no, my no? Do I give you the pros and cons? Like all that stuff, right, of the basics of the friendship. So what you can do is if you're remote, take that extra effort. Like, hey, you know what, I would love to be able to just have a, conversation and coffee with you remotely, right, or virtually, or, just have I don't know, cookies and conversation and wine and whatever. You're 23, so cookies and conversation. But anything like that. So you will have to take the extra effort, and it can be outside of work, right? You don't have to, if you're remote, you just do it, during the evenings or before. Depending on your job as well, right? Because if you're a salesperson, I always tell you, you shouldn't be chit-chatting during people hours, right? You're trying to sell stuff. So it's either before or after. And during the work hours, you're only talking to people who can actually buy stuff, right? Which isn't your friend, right? So there's ways to do it. You just have to be mindful of it and put forth the effort, and you'll be surprised how many people will meet you halfway.
Mm-hmm. That's really good.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Desiree King. I'm the founder of Communicate to Close. My question is, when you've outgrown your circle of friends, and it's time, like you said, to be intentional about that next level of friendship, how do you begin to build that relationship? Because of course, at this juncture, we're busy. We're all busy, and that new level of friendship may not be in the same city, state, or even continent. So how are we intentional about being able to genuinely, authentically build it instead of forcing it? Any recommendations?
I can take it. I think by being here, for one, that's where by networking and joining groups of people who are similarly minded, and then developing those relationships. We're in challenging times, and I have continued to try to be a positive light for others, for my kids, for my family, but sometimes you need to be poured into as well. And so this was perfectly timed for me, and to be able to, socialize with work colleagues, but also meet other people from throughout the country, that we can continue to have a great relationship, continue to pour into each other. It does take effort, but you have to put yourself out there, network. Like I said, there are so many wonderful organizations that can support you, where you can make new friends and really pour into others and be poured into as well.
Yeah, can I add on to what Jayme said? I think it's important when developing, looking to seek new friendships, that you know what you're looking for, right? So whether you're looking for a mentor, whether you're looking for someone to build camaraderie with, I think identifying the type of relationship you're looking for makes it easier. And it certainly makes it easier if you are very clear. For some of those who may have attended yesterday's talk, I remember one of the speakers stated that in order for me to help you, you have to tell me how I need to help you, right? And being very clear and intentional, like, here are the 3 things I'm looking for in this relationship. And try to build those friendships with people that know you and want the best for you.
I also want to say one thing that you didn't ask this question, but it's something I want just to have everybody think about. I was having this discussion recently. There is, as you're looking forward, right? So you're at whatever level, and then you're also looking for that next level, and you're starting to plan those relationships at that level. Don't be intimidated by that level. Yeah. Right? That part we don't usually think about, but you have to feel like, you're always dressing for the next level. You have to act like you're already at the next level. And so if you see somebody who's at a level that you're not quite there just yet, how you show up is you don't ask them for anything. Let me just say that, right? Yeah. And you only add value, you only add value, you only add value. And that value could be something, you may not have the value to add at this stage of the game, but the value could be they post something on LinkedIn and you like it, or you repost it, or you're like, oh, I love that, and then you add, you chime in with your 2 cents, so that you start to get at least on their radar, So as the time comes, and when you get to that level, then it won't be like, oh, I've never heard of you before. Like they know of you. They may not know you, but they know of you. So I think one of the folks said it on Abby's piece, and then they said, just don't ask for anything, just add value, add value, add value. But I really want to encourage you all, because I'm sure you want to keep going up in your career, just be mindful. Don't let that next level intimidate you. Approach them. But not ask for anything, but approach them and make your brand visible to them as well. Yeah.
Over here. Hello, my name is Dr. Alicia Hodge. I'm from DC, and Stephanie just essentially answered most of my question. However, as a psychologist, I don't want any more psychology friends, and so you guys working across industries, and so I was curious about any tips about how to execute. Connecting with someone genuinely across industries when they may be looking at you like, well, I'm an engineer. I don't really see what we have in common.
Was that question for me specifically? So what I would say is use your credentials, right? So you said I'm a psychologist. To me, you're a doctor, right? And so if I'm going to now start to kind of grab from different industries and build that relationship, use the credentials that you have, because you're right. Somebody's like, okay, the psychiatrist reached out to me. I'm like, is it obvious?
How you know?
How do you know? Are people talking? But what you can do is lean on the doctor's side, because I don't know what kind of doctor you are, right? But most of us would have respect for the fact that you've gone to school, you're highly educated, so on and so forth. So that would be one angle that I would try to approach.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's over to you.
Good morning, Linda Blaney-Smith. Thank you for this time and conversation. My question to you is, I know we discussed the difference between good friends, that sister friendship, and acquaintances. Have you ever been in a situation, and how do you navigate it, when there's someone in your world that you consider an acquaintance, but they look to you as that close friend?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. That's tricky. That was tricky.
Who would like to answer that question?
That was tricky.
I'll start.
For Jayme.
I'll get some support from my friends.
Jayme, we got you.
We got you, Jayme. We got you.
Nationwide isn't the only one on your side. We got you.
That's right.
So I'll say this has happened before, because I am a people person. I enjoy relationships. I make authentic connections. But again, it goes to knowing yourself, knowing who you can trust, and just because people can trust you does not mean that you can trust them.
Yes.
So you need to just create those boundaries. And I'm comfortable. People can bare their souls to me, and it's fine. It won't go anywhere. I will give you great advice. But that doesn't mean I'm telling you all of my secrets. So I think it's just important for you to recognize how you feel about the relationship and then behave accordingly. And again, trust yourself. Do not share anything that you don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah, because it kind of should make you nervous that they see you as a really close friend and you're like, what's your name again? You know what I mean? So I think that's great advice. That's fantastic.
Yeah. One last question, and then good. Look, it's perfect. Look at God.
Yes. My name is Ebony Love, and I'm from Detroit, but I live in Tampa, so I got to represent Detroit. My question is, a lot of times I've made friendships in organizations or where I work, but if you leave the company or by whichever means, what are some good tips on maintaining those friendships or after you've left? Like if you don't have that working relationship and you're like outside the circle, so to speak, like what are some good tips on like staying close and connected to the people that you've made friendships with at work?
I'll just say one thing in regards to, especially for those that are leaders, right? If you're leading a team and so on and so forth. I actually talk about this in my book. See what I did there? but if you're leading a team, the way that I look at it is leadership is, my job is to get you to that next level. Hopefully it's in this organization, but it may not be, right? It doesn't change the fact that my job is to get you to the next level. And so when you go to that next level, then I may no longer, be talking to you every single day because maybe you've gone down to another company. But it doesn't change the fact that I still want to check in with you. I may send you a text, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help you with? I send those kind of texts all the time to people who've worked for me, maybe whenever, right? There's however many of them there are. But doing that little thing, 9 times out of 10, they don't necessarily need anything from me. But what it does do is it allows me to hold myself accountable to not just be a one-hit wonder, right? I'm not your friend or your boss just when I'm with you. How can I actually always make sure that I can impact your life in some shape, form, or fashion all the time? And as you go on in your career, I may be that, pushing it forward, right? I may be that friend where, I actually had this the other day, where someone who worked for me years ago, now he has an opportunity to be on a board. And so he called me, hey, Steph, how are you? Oh my God, how are you doing? I'm so proud of you. This is great. Okay, this is how you can handle that negotiation, right? So you have to be mindful of it. It should never just go away. You should always, this is how I see it, and I'm not gonna get preachy, but I believe that leadership is a calling. And that whenever I'm blessed to be able to have influence over people's lives, whether it's on stage, whether it's in a book, whether it's I've led you or I'm on board or whatever, I take that really seriously because I think one day I'm gonna be accountable for it. And so with that in mind, that's why me sending off a little text here and there, it holds me accountable to make sure that I've not personally always just moved on, right? So that's a flip way of doing it, at least for those that are in leadership. I hope that's helpful, but.
Cynthia, yeah. I would just say, as I mentioned before, I think friendships are very sacred. And when I have this friendship, I try to share both my professional and personal life. And so even people that I used to work with, I haven't worked with these people in like 13, 14 years when I was working at Amazon back in the day. Because we built that personal connection, we were able to still stay in contact, right? So as you build these professional relationships, I think it's important that you try to weave in some, personal parts of yourself so that that relationship outstand any form of employment you may have.
Love it. So that is the end of our panel. So here's the thing. When you leave today, I want you to think about being intentional about your friendships. Plants only grow when they're cared for.
Yes.
And your friendships are very valuable plants. They were not created to just sit on the sidelines. You need a place, as Alyssa said, where you can go and just take your bra off and be your good old natural self without having to wear the mask that you're required to wear every day. And the reason we wanted this panel so much is because you spend every day concerned about your career. You spend every day thinking about how you're going to get promoted, where you're going to go, what's next, what's the next thing. But the reality is when you come into this space, you need to know there is more to life than working. There's more to life than your next position. And that more that you are absolutely deserving of is a group of super friends.
Yes.
And so thank you all for coming to our panel. We appreciate you.